Good morning. Today I am looking at the psalm that has meant the most to me throughout my life, certainly for the last 40 years. It is Psalm 139, and I'll read it at the end because it's quite a long psalm, and actually it's quite good to look at the psalm and think about it before I read it. Most of us pass through some identity crisis at some time in our life. We've all asked, who am I? Possibly because of the scientific knowledge of how vast the universe is and how our earth is but a tiny speck on it, and we are mere humans on that earth. It can make us feel rather insignificant at times. But this psalm tells us that we are important to God nevertheless. As I said, it's one of my favourite psalms, and I recommend that you read it, reread it, immerse yourself in it. It is split into 4 parts of 6 verses each in most translations. So looking at the first part, the psalmist asks, how well does God know me? And the answer is very well indeed. God knows us when we are passive, even asleep, and he knows us when we are active, whatever we may be doing. God knows all our thoughts. That's quite scary though, to be honest. He knows everything we think and say, no matter what language or how we communicate. God knows it all. He also knows us better than we know ourselves, for he knows our subconscious. Those parts that we don't even really know. And that is amazing as well as scary. But it can be comforting as well, I would suggest. I have a friend and we've been friends since the first year of primary school. And it is such a joy for us both when we meet because we know virtually everything about each other. We can be completely honest with each other because we have been through all manner of things together. And so it is with God. It can be very releasing to know that he knows us so well that we don't have to put a face on for him. The second part, the psalmist asks, how near is God to me? There are times when we would like to hide from God, and the Bible tells us of many people who have tried to. But as these next verses tell us, God is with us in all places and at all times. As an aside, that's part of the Eucharistic aid that I use, partly because of those words. And whether it is in the better times or the times when we feel wretched and unloved and unworthy, so the presence of God should not be a fearful thought. No distance can separate us from God. No darkness, physical or mental, can hide us from God's presence. He knows us and sees us, no matter how dark or light it is. Paul reminds us that God is not far away from any one of us. Whether we know it or not, he is but a touch away. The third part tells us about how the psalmist knows all of this. And I don't know about you, but I am amazed at our human form. In fact, the whole of creation is wonderful. We do not have to make ourselves breathe or our hearts circulate our blood. We do not have to think about so many parts of our body. It just gets on with what it's meant to be doing. And we probably pay very little heed to them unless they start to play up or go wrong. And even now we really do not understand our brains very much at all. Even the top brain surgeons and scientists admit that quite readily, that our brains are still largely a mystery to us. The vitality and complexity of our bodies is amazing and essential to our existence. And that is what struck the psalmist. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Verse 15 talks about woven together or intricately wrought. The word in Hebrew means embroidered. Now, some of you may know I embroider and love stitch of all kinds. And there are some stitches that are very simple and there are very complicated ones. But the purpose of them all is to add beauty to the basic framework. This psalm describes the delicate embroidery of the body, all the parts of our body, and they rely on each other and are amazingly embroidered together in a most beautiful way. How precious are God's thought, how vast is the sum of them, how wide is the range that God comments upon his revelation. Even if you come to the end, the psalmist says, God is still more. No revelation can ever plumb the depths of God. How great, how impossibly great are his thoughts towards us. Think for a moment the grains of sand on a beach. I've often marvelled at the vastness of sand, and we are told that God's thoughts are greater than all the sands in the world. God is greater than we could ever imagine. And while that could be a bit scary, it can be very comforting as well. Now, the final part of this psalm is often missed out when it's read because it takes quite a diverse turn. Read it and you will see. Oh, that thou wouldst slay the wicked, O God, and that men of blood would depart from thee. It goes on in quite a way. Why this sudden desire for the Lord to kill the wicked, according to the psalmist? This has troubled many because it seems so far from the New Testament standard. Love your enemies. Pray for those who despitefully use you. Do good to those who injure you. But first, we need to recognise that everything that is declared in the Psalms is not necessarily a reflection of God's will. We are listening to the experiences of people. They honestly mirror the human viewpoint, and we need to understand these passages in the light of the context they were written in. In this part, the psalmist, having been impressed by his close relationship to God, now naturally comes to the place where he asks God for something. And this is what we all do. When we are aware of being near to God, being dear to him, we tend to ask him for something. In this case, the psalmist is asking. First, he asks God to take care of the problem of the wicked. His suggested manner of handling it is rather naive. He says, Lord, wipe them out, as though that is such a simple remedy for the human ills that it would never have occurred to the Almighty. Lord, wipe them out, that's all. That will take care of them. And if we think about the Old Testament, there were times when people wrote, that's exactly what God did. But have you all ever felt that way? I suggest we all feel sometimes, oh, just wipe out those evil people. One of the refreshing things about the Psalms is the honesty that they reflect. But notice, he does not say, why don't you let me do it? He recognises that vengeance belongs to God, and that if anybody is going to do it, it's going to be God. So he's not saying, Lord, let me handle this. This is what many do say today. Lord, I'll wipe out the wicked. Just turn them over to me. I'll take care of them. But this man does not say that. He says, Lord, it's your problem. Why don't you do it? Now, I'm sure you can understand why he is so upset by this, because verse 20 points out that he is not concerned about what the wicked do to him, but what they're doing to God. They maliciously defy thee. In the Hebrew it is even clear. Literally, he is saying, they speak of thee for wickedness. In other words, they use your name to carry out evil designs. The sharpest words Jesus ever spoke were against the religious hypocrisy of the Pharisees. And what this psalmist is saying is that these men are religious hypocrites. They are using your name in vain. This is the case of a man who has felt the hatred of God against sin, but not perhaps yet the love of God for the sinner. And that is why I think he concludes with these words: "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." Is he not saying, "Lord, I don't understand the problem of evil. It appears to me the easiest way is to eliminate the evil person." But actually, we are all evil, because all our thoughts, our deeds can be wrong. So actually, by asking God to eliminate the evil, he is asking God to eliminate himself and all of us. So use that prayer sometimes. Search me, O God, know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. See if there be any wickedness in me, and lead me in the truth, the way that leads to everlasting life. As Jesus told the people who were about to stone to death the woman accused of adultery, "Let the first person without sin cast the first stone." We need to look at our own behaviour before we accuse others and wish them God. Now, I have run over time, but I will read the psalm. But if you want to, you can just press the stop button. Psalm 139. You have searched me, O Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in from behind and before, and you lay your hand on me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in that secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written, before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I am awake, I am still with you. If only you, God, would slay the wicked. Away from me, you who are bloodthirsty. They speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries misuse your name. Do I not hate those who hate you, Lord, and abhor those who are in rebellion against you? I have nothing but hatred for them. I count them my enemies. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.